Welcome, wandering souls and lost sailors, to the Ship of the Dead podcast.
Welcome aboard, me hearties, to the Ship of the Dead. My guests today are Luke Gearing and Johan Nohr. Luke is known for his numerous OSR projects, especially his work on Mothership's Pound of Flesh, Ingredient Descent, and for his game Wolves Upon the Coast. And Johan, of course, perhaps our first returning guest, is the artist and graphic designer for numerous projects, including Mörk Borg, or Mörk Borg, as he says it, Cyborg, Into the Odd Remastered. Gentlemen, welcome aboard the Ship of the Dead.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers for having us, man.
Before we begin, I want to give a bit of a congratulations to you both. You've both made really big career moves lately. Johan, you left your, quote, day job and went full-time, perhaps kicking it off with your new art book, which we'll talk about a little later. And Luke, you've been hired at Tuesday Night Games to be Mothership's full-time writer. Is that correct?
Yep.
I want to say congratulations. Can you guys tell us a little bit about how it's going working on these nerdy projects full-time now?
Yeah, it's great. It's really good. I'm very much happier, going from on a Saturday morning dreading the fact that Monday's coming to being like, oh cool, I've got work tomorrow. I get to think about Space Pirates some more. It's fucking sick. Super happy with it. Obviously very grateful, but yeah, it's been an absolute blast. Very weird, you just kind of wake up, so, oh, I guess I'll start writing. And that's it. This is what you're doing. Very, very unusual, but very good. Really enjoying it so far, because we're coming up 6 months in now. It's been a very happy 6 months on my end.
So, Luke, can you share at all, how that came to be? Obviously, you'd work on Mothership projects, but how did that conversation start? Was it tied to the Kickstarter wrapping up, or what?
I think Sean had mentioned it quite a while ago, and I was like, oh, I'm sure he's just putting out feelers. And then towards the end of last year, it was kind of hey, let's make this work. Let's actually make this happen, which is really well timed because obviously with COVID and everything, my job had been remote, but corporate was trying to force us all back into the office, which I was very much not keen for. So it kind of timed up very well, where it was I could dip on the old job just before they put us back in the office. Yeah, I mean, because we talk a lot throughout the kind of writing and development of the box set we've been talking, and obviously getting my input, and there's always the idea that I'd be doing modules sort of going forwards as and when. So it was well, they could sort of internally make the business case of well, if we have him full time, we can increase that throughput and it will work out better for everyone involved. So that was kind of the big motivator, which is very nice to have the doing nerd shit full time, but with the stability of oh, I can also pay for things and not have to stress out, which is nice.
Well, I also heard Sean mentioned in the announcement that the way a publisher can think about its projects when you have a full-time writer is a totally different philosophy than okay, we're gonna make this thing and we'll hire this guy, and this thing will make this guy. So I'm imagining that the breadth of the work that you guys are gonna do now can be kind of larger scale if you want it to be, right?
Yeah, and we can scale it as well. So it's at the moment a big project, and it's okay, cool. We can also start to do some future planning where it isn't just oh, who's around when I've got an open slot. It can be okay, how many books this year, how many books next year, how many smaller ones in between the books do we want to do, as well as kind of any additional work that kind of comes up here and there, does this need a little bit of extra, does this need a freebie or whatever, and you just do that because you just have a resource on tap to just be yeah, go do the thing, which is a very cool way of working, as well as you can spend a lot more time thinking about stuff, and that's not wasted time. That's you're doing that kind of long range, okay, so the next book will have these features in, and that's a cool thing where it's spend a week thinking about what the next sort of book's going to have, and what you think the structure will be and all the rest of that, which is really cool, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that becoming a professional writer, you really have to learn to oh, the discovery period is actually part of the job. And I think when you're just doing it as a hobbyist, you can't afford that. If you only have 4 hours in the evening before you go to bed for work, how are you going to spend 6 of them reading some novel from the period that you're writing in? I think that's really cool for you to be able to deep dive on a topic and know it's for work,
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's really satisfying to know that time's it's invested, and because I think a big thing I'm always pushing for is read other shit, don't just read fiction today and games from today. You got to go back and read weird shit that you never would have encountered, because otherwise you're just using the same idea pool, and having the protected time to do that in addition to just wanting to do that anyway is super good, super
yeah, or
good.
else you get in a weird feedback loop, which could be cool, but yeah, mix it up, right? Okay, so for listeners who don't know, Mothership did what, $1.5 million on Kickstarter a few years back, and it's just recently fulfilled. So, I mean, that's got to be exciting for you guys that the hype is finally now, like this game is making it to tables. The box set has shipped. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so like obviously I don't touch too much like the logistics side because I think my brain would melt.
Sure, but it's got to be cool to see people
yeah,
playing.
like it's super hype, like seeing people like finally actually get to read it, like hearing people like kind of respond really well to the Warren's operation manual is hype as well.
Yes.
Because like Shaw did a great job, and a lot of that comes from like conversations with like me and some other people, and it's just like, yeah, like this is fucking cool that like people get it, because like it's not there's like, you know, there's hardly any rules in there, like it's all just like, oh, here's how to run a game, and like here's how to prep a game.
You guys can't see, but Johan and I are like chef kissing. It's such a good book.
I wasn't sure if I should just barge in there, but I love that book. Yeah, no, I read it from like start to finish, which I rarely do. Yeah. And I was just nodding the whole time while I was reading it. And it's like, okay, I can use this not only for Mothership, of course, but for like anything.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you guys took like 10-ish years of like OSR post Google Plus like blog entries and took like all the best bits on how to run a game and put them into a manual for GMs, which is
for sure. Yeah, I mean, the one that blew my head open was have a notebook, each campaign one notebook, jobs are good, and keep an index.
A shitty notebook. Yeah,
and because I've been doing the fucking bullet journaling thing for years, it's like, oh, this really organized my life, and I never thought until Sean said, just do it for an RPG campaign, dingus. And I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, that's so good. And now every campaign I've got one notebook.
Did you like dabble in Dungeon 23 at all?
I did for a bit, but I think, what was that, 23? I think, was I still writing Wolves then? So it was like I already had like the daily writing practice, so the Dungeon 23 stuff kind of fell by the wayside for me, because I was like, I don't need an impetus to write every day. In fact, I need something to not distract me from the shit I need to get done for other people or whatever.
That's how I felt, man. I think I lasted 3 weeks and I was like, everything I'm doing in here is what I would just be doing normally, and now this is just distracting from the important projects.
I bought this very nice thing to write in, of course, and I knew that I wouldn't make it. Like I made it a week, and I knew that the whole time. It was like that was according to my plan. I had a friend who actually finished it. I'm very, very proud of him.
For me, it was a fun January, but that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was pretty good.
Okay, how about you, Johan? Can you share like what it's been like to leave? Because you know, when we talked last time you were in the show, you and Pella were both like, we don't want to quit our jobs. We like this being a love thing, and now you're full time, which I think everyone in the industry is excited about. Can you talk about that a bit?
I mean, for a long time, that was like my personal response to the questions, like, oh, shouldn't you go full time? I was like, no, I don't want to, because I think that was like a self-defense mechanism for in a way. Like I didn't dare to quit my job, and I was afraid that if I was gonna do this full time, then it would like not be a passion anymore. It would just be a job. But then I realized that I've been doing this for a job for so many years anyway, so I might as well just quit my day job and do this full time, and it would just be better. It's been crazy, I think, to just spend all days drawing monsters and skeletons. That's like what I do for a living. It's like that's not a real job, but that's what I do.
No, so, I think we all feel that way from time to time.
Like,
what are we doing?
Like, am I doing this? And then and it opens up so much. You know, I can say yes to more projects that I would previously have to say no to.
Can you share anything that you're working on that's coming up?
So there's a few freelance things, just small ones, and then I'm working together with Zach from Soul Muppet doing this Paint the Town Red game, which I'm doing sort of like art direction, creative direction thing for. So I'm drawing some pieces as well, but mainly I did like the design concept, and I'm not doing the layout. I just do the direction of it in a way. Sure. And I like it a lot. It's a fun thing to do that job as well.
How about the cyborg module?
Oh god, yeah, no, it's
oh god, don't talk about it.
No. I'm working on it. I'm just being distracted by other things. It's my fault. It should have been done by now. It's a similar thing that would happen to Tephrotic Nightmares, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but if you bring it up, you bring it up.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Well, I think this is a good time to talk about the art book, because the art book has fulfilled on Kickstarter. It's a huge book. It's really incredible, but I couldn't help but notice reading in the thank yous that you had a thank you to. I was just assuming it was Luke.
Yeah, it was Luke.
Said, yeah. There's like a big list of thanks, and it says, says, Luke, for not sending hitmen when I spend time doing everything but working on the already delayed project.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, no, and you didn't, and now it's done. But I don't know. That's how I work. I get really passionate about a project in the beginning, and then if anything happens to distract me from that, I get easily. It's an ADD thing, I guess. I know. You know, it is.
Tell us about the art book for those who don't know about it.
One day I just looked back at I've been so productive the last couple of years since Mörk Borg, mostly, but way before that as well, like some years before that, or 1 year before that. And I realized that I should probably start collecting these illustrations that I've been doing. Otherwise I will forget about them, or they will just disappear on some Dropbox somewhere. And I had so many pieces, and a lot of the pieces I was really happy with as well. And I figured, why not try to gather it in one big art book and see if I can make something that can be interesting. And people seem to like what I draw, and so, I give it a shot. Yeah, it became this. I have it right here. It's this giant brick of a book that's like heavy as shit, and it's big. Oh, look at that. Nice. And it's like stupid big and heavy, and
but it's a coffee table book. It
is. It's supposed to be that way. It's like one of those super fancy design coffee table books that you can have, and like it gave me an opportunity to also scale up the art, because I draw the pictures way bigger than they're printed. So even though like all the books are A5, they can be like 4 times as big. So this time I could really just do them 100% and show them in all their detailed glory.
I have a funny story, because my fulfillment arrived while my mother was visiting. Hi, Mom. I'm sure she's listening because she listens to every episode. But my mom is like, she's not super into the like darker metal side of things. And I was like so happy to have this book. So we put it like right in my coffee table thing, right in the middle of the living room. I was like, Mom, you want to go through this? And she's like, oh, this is very interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot. It never ends as well, because it's like 300 pages almost. And it was exactly the same thing with like my mom and my mother-in-law, when they watched this book, and they're like, how do you really feel? Like, what's going on here?
Like, are you okay inside?
Are you okay? It's like just page after page of like demons and skulls and death and gore. And it's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, this is just
of course. That's how you get it out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess before we move on from the art book, I do want to ask, like, so you have a very, very discernible style now.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, when I look at that book, like, I don't really know what you were like way before. Like the drawing monsters thing, like, did your monsters look like Mörk Borg monsters 10 years ago?
I mean, 10 years ago isn't that long. I've been doing Mörk Borg for 5 years, but
that's
But yeah, in the end papers, there's actually lots of old pictures from when I was like 15 or 16, and they look sort of similar. It's just like I've refined my style and become better at it. But I've always been drawing these sort of things, so it's just it's just weird that I can now work doing it. So like if 15-year-old Johan had known back then that I could do this full time. I
mean, I think it's kind of that, ever permeating existential creative self-doubt that we all have, that like, what, people are going to pay for this, like people pick up Pirate Borg and like, there are like, Luke, this art is great. And I was like, what are you lying? Like, you can't be telling me, I don't believe them,
Everyone feels that way, or a lot of people feel that way, I guess. And I think getting this art book sort of made me more confident that maybe I'm an actual artist, Also, like, because I had like 2 art exhibitions now, one in Sweden and one in Italy, where I was invited. And that too sort of was like someone screamed in my ear, like, you can actually do this. Like, you do this now. You don't have to worry about, it's not just for fun.
We could talk about art all day, but I think there's a really strong like vibe in the art scene where it's like the thing that's unique to, like, only you are you, and I think you've really done a good job, Luke, you as well in your writing, but we'll get to that in a second. Like, you've done a good job embracing your thing and not trying to be somebody else's. And I think that it's like, it's not necessarily about like, I don't know, how crazy, like another artist you are. Like, does this look like an old master's oil painting? Like, that doesn't mean it's good. Like, it being like you is what makes it good, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think everyone should try to identify and find their style of whatever they're doing and just go all in on that.
Yes, I agree.
Not try to mimic others too much.
I'm at the first page of that, I think. Okay, so let's talk about the main topic here. Tephrotic Nightmares. Am I saying it how you guys say it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a real word, so
not a real yes. But in my research, I'm guessing this comes from the Greek word for ash.
Correct.
Volcanoes,
there we go.
yes,
Someone else found it. Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
It's a. You know what? Why don't you tell me? You give me the elevator pitch for what this thing is.
Big old sea of ash, and everyone's miserable because it's Mörk Borg, and you got fucked up boats, and a lot of shit to go and poke at and piss off, and maybe die too.
Yeah, maybe die. So this is like 170 page A5 hardcover campaign setting or campaign adventure for Mörk Borg, right?
Yeah, it's a campaign. Yeah. It's like Waterworld without water.
Waterworld, yeah. I'll put a disclaimer just for any like people who don't know about this project who are into Pirate Borg side of things. We're not talking about ash from the Dark Caribbean. This is real normal ash, and we're not talking about real water. We're talking about a sea of ash. So I just want to disclaimer that for anybody who's like, wait, I'm so confused about the ash thing. Okay, so like, where did this come from? Like, how long you guys been working on it? Like, how did the collaboration begin?
Yeah. How long have we worked on it?
Give us the juicy details.
Was it like when Mörk Borg was first released, where you first got it?
It was pretty early on, yeah. Like I was picking it up, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty sick. Hey, look, we should do a little thing." And you're like, "Oh, it sounds great." And then I wrote it. Then I gave it to Johan for some art.
And then the rest is history. I think this was before we even had a third-party license, before any of the circus that is Mörk Borg now, and nothing of that had happened. So this is actually writing stuff from Mörk Borg before it was cool. I mean, it holds up very well, regardless. It's not that it's old and useless. It's just it's old and true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with a V.
Yeah, of course.
I have a sneak peek preview PDF of this thing, and it's fucking sweet. It does a great job fitting in, but also like kind of adapting to its own world. You know, like for example, the stat blocks have really cool tweaks that you don't see in the core book that you might have seen in some third-party projects, but you have like stuff where like, okay, all the NPCs or all the monsters in this faction all have this one ability, things like that. So I think it stands up. I think it's a pretty cool project.
And there's some neat things there. Like you don't have the currency is the water, because obviously there's no water on the Sea of Ash. So you like extract corpse water from the creatures to drink or trade with.
So was Dune a big influence on this, or is that obvious?
Yeah. Like most people, you know, I read Dune and it rewired my brain at a very impressionable age.
But it sounds like maybe you wrote this before the new movie came out?
Oh, yeah, way before. I think I was like 15 or 16 when I first read Dune, if not younger. So yeah, quite a few years ago now. And yeah, no, like I think it just, over like most sci-fi fantasy stuff, right? Like Dune kind of looms huge, and I think that's only going to get more fucking intense after the films. Like,
yes,
it's very wild seeing like normies talking about Dune now.
I know. I feel the same way. It was kind of like the same thing with Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, all of a sudden it's like cool to like Lord of the Rings. Like,
what happens if I say I haven't read or seen Dune?
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like I should, maybe. I know it's a desert. There's some drugs and there's big worms, and it looks cool as hell. So like that's all I know.
Doesn't that sound super up your alley though?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. Like I have no like feel like reason to not watch it or read it. It's just haven't happened yet. So
I was a fan of Dune before the first movie came out. I was like, saw opening night. I was like super pumped. But after the second movie, I'm like, it's the same thing with Lord of the Rings. Like I was into Lord of the Rings, but after those movies, you're like have these images to attach to the thing that maybe you didn't have when you were reading it. Like your art director mind wasn't as good as who they got. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm all the way in now. So seeing the water thing, especially that the second one came out recently, was pretty cool. So for those listening, when you get to the border of this, like the endless sea, or you actually give some options where you can place this thing. There's this giant sea of ash from a huge forest that's burnt down, and you can exchange your silver or currency at the border for water. But then everything inside this campaign you're paying for with water. And the monsters, when you kill them, they all have a water value, and like in Mörk Borg, their pieces value, Monster Hunter pieces have values in water. I think that's a cool twist. Can you talk about that a bit, Luke?
Yeah, well, like, so it's obviously like flipping through the Mörk Borg book, it's like, oh damn, like this thing's eyes are worth like 5 silver. That's cool as fuck, because it's like when you put something in there, like it's not just like oh cool, like goblin eyes 5 silver or whatever. It's like, okay, well somebody's buying goblin eyes. Why? And it's like you can do because like I like to write tests, so if I can like overload every piece of information like that and make every piece of information pull double duty, then like that's cool as hell. well. So it's like, okay, like lean in, like, okay, like the rams are like the tusks of this big thing, or like, oh, this thing's got really valuable skin. So like it's very much just a case of seeing it done in the Mörk Borg core book and being like, okay, cool, let's take that as far as we can. Let's like do even more of it. Yeah, that's where that part sort of came from.
So are you able to think back to the early days when you wrote this and like think about, you know, how Mörk Borg made you feel and like why did you want to write this thing other than it just being a cool book?
So like I think for me, yeah, I've talked about this before, and like Mörk Borg's funny. Like it's not grim, it's not like actually like a miserable game. It's very funny. For me, at least I think it's very funny. So for me, it was like, okay, cool, like let's lean in on that. But also, especially like in the time since, like my works lent a lot like less design heavy. Like it's a lot more just like, oh, it's just text on a page, no art, no layout to speak of. So I thought like, hey, it would be cool to bring those two worlds together and have that kind of like very prose heavy approach. And then also obviously with Johan kind of like remixing it almost with the layout and the art. So that's kind of how the conception came about and why like reading Mörk Borg was like, hell yeah, like let's do a thing together, like and build out something from this kind of opposite, not schools of thought, but like approaches to doing a similar sort of thing.
Looking back on it now, I know your opinions on bullet points. Like how does that I guess it's a little more prosy, but Mörk Borg's bullet pointy. I don't know. What can you tell, like people probably don't know what the hell we're talking about. Can you talk about the bullet point thing at all, or is it just a side joke?
I like it when there's words on the page and I can read them like a book. Okay, no, all right, so here we go. All right, so the issue I have with bullet points is when you write it like bullet points, it becomes just like lists of information. And for me, when I'm running a game, I'm only ever going to be able to present it as that. Whereas for me, if I'm reading a module, I want it to give me an idea of the place. And for me, if you just list in like bullet point form the shit that's there, then I'm not being given an idea of how things flow together, because like the aesthetic value of the text, same thing with the like aesthetic value of the art, isn't just like a picture of a goblin. The fact that the goblin's drawn the way it's drawn tells me something additional. Again, it's that like overloading of information. Same thing with text. If you just have a bullet point saying a goblin, whatever, who fucking cares? If you can give me like a goblin and then you describe it in prose and you kind of give the positionality and the feeling of the thing, way more useful for me as a GM, because then I don't need to come up with that shit. Because like you can, like 2d6 goblins, best dungeon room, you know, but you can do that at home. You don't need me to give you that, so I should be trying to do a little bit more there, right?
Yes.
I think it's just different ways of GMing, because I agree, I need more than just the words. But for me, like reading prose is nice, but when I'm running a game, like I'm too stupid to do that from just prose. I need to have like clear, like read here, you idiot, like bullets. Just like that's how I work. But
like, what is there? Oh, let me look. Yeah. Well, I think one thing I've noticed with your work, Luke, and I hope this doesn't fluff your ego too much, but like when I read some of the stuff you write, I'm like, oh, this guy's definitely smarter than me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'll be like reading some of your either that or you have like the largest collection of like encyclopedias and thesauruses like right next to your, you know, like I have this I don't know how you say it, but like and treasure.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that one's fun.
And like just this is for people who are listening, this is like a little, what is it, an A6? It's like a quarter page size.
A6. It's tiny.
100, 200 page treasure book. And I was reading the coins and I was like, every coin entry is that thing that you were talking about where you're world building or you're giving information besides it's just a coin. Like you're like revealing information about the world. But the information that you reveal in these like 2-sentence descriptions, I'm always like, what? I have to like Google it. But then once you do that work, it like reveals so many extra layers, which I think has to be part of your style, right?
Yeah, because like it's like quite into history, and like with anything, like when you start researching it, like there's no answers. Things just get more complicated the more you read up about shit. I feel like that should be reflected, because like for me, the ideal game situation is like, oh, it's just a place that exists. The characters also exist. Do what you want, like kind of big shrug. I want to try and capture that with those descriptions, where it is this idea of like, yeah, everything links to everything else. Everything's messy. Everything's complicated. Everything's political. Like, make what you will of it. Like, you can choose to ignore that, but it's there. It's present, whether you like it or not. And that's kind of the hope to capture it. That and like, I don't know. I always like the feeling of seeing a word I don't know and Googling it and being like, cool, I learned something. Like,
I mean, I do too. I really enjoy the process. That's almost like you're playing as a GM. Like, you're not exploring a dungeon. You're exploring like topics or history.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just fun to read that
it's
way.
Fun to read that way. Yeah. And also, like, at this point, we all, like you said, we all know 2d6 goblins in a dungeon room. Like, it's fun to have, if you bought it, it's nice to have a whole other layer to to peel back, if you will. Let's pivot to talk a bit about the mechanics. Of course, I mean, I'm the pirate Mörk Borg guy, I guess, so I have to talk about boats because the boats approach in this is awesome. You need a vessel to navigate the Sea of Ash, and there are a bunch of boats provided, but unlike, like in my game, it's like historic, real, normal boats. You have like the most fucked up boats I could, like
I don't
one
think
of the
there's
boats.
any normal boat in this.
There's no normal boats. No, it's like not only are they not the boats not normal, but all the upgrades. Can you give us some examples of some of the like one of them is like the sail is a giant bat wing, and one of course is a corpse of a raft of corpses. Like what other
one is
crazy
just one
ones?
big giant corpse that you run in slash on.
Yeah, with like its
giant
chest scooped out, so you just sit in its chest and belly, like, go on, go forwards.
Yeah, tell us about coming up with the boats, I guess. That's what I want to know.
So, like, for me, like, Mörk Borg's kind of like post-apocalyptic. So, like, it's like, well, what do we have? Like, what still exists? And it's like, well, there's bits of dead animal everywhere, so that's fine. There's, like, necromancers in the region, so reanimated corpses, all good. And then some of them were like, well, what other forms of transport exist? It's like, well, sleds exist. So there's, I think, there's the one where it's like you just tie a load of birds, like cannibal birds, to a boat and they pull it along. They go forwards and they eat each other. It's great. Or like, I think there's the one where it's like a load of undead bees strapped to
No, that's my favorite. It's a balloon full of undead bees.
Dead bee balloon. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna read that one.
Like, who the hell comes up with these things?
Yeah. Okay, here's the description. In truth, it isn't a boat, but a wicker basket, leashed delicately to a huge swarm of necromantic bees, tricked into bringing back honey from a mellified man. Whilst flying high above the sea, avoids encounters directly. Those below are still aware of your passage. Furthermore, you are utterly at the whim of the wind. I just feel like that's not going to be the kind of campaign that your players are going to win, but they're going to fucking remember that forever.
Yeah. Also, the moment when they buy this / boat in quote marks, it's like that's all they can get. Like this, like some scammy boat merchants sell them a balloon full of dead bees.
I feel like I immediately was picturing my players like they're on this gross Sea of Ash with some weird barge, and they buy the bee thing, but then they take a chain, and they're like the chain is hanging up to drag the thing along. It's almost like Mörk Borg Mad Max,
that was definitely a big influence for me, especially like the upgrade system, because for me it's like part of the reason to have a cool vehicle in a setting like this is you want to put like guns and shit on it. Although obviously in this case it's just strap a ballista on there, or the little mutant homunculus scapegoat.
Homunculus, yeah.
Oh yes,
so
that one's
fun.
Bird parchment as well, like something that collects birds that die
it's
that
glue.
You can eat.
It's like fly paper for birds. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah, no, you get free food every day. Just comes lots of birds.
I like the snake scriptures where there's just like hanging parchment made of snake skin, and then they like come alive and attack.
That's good.
It's definitely the setting alone. I mean, Mörk Borg, but also the setting in particular is very evocative for coming up with just like the wackiest metal gonzo shit that you can think of.
I think it's fun because it's essentially a new setting. Like it fits in, it plugs in with the existing setting, but it's it's a new place, new factions, new monsters, new everything. So
yeah. Actually, can we talk a bit about the factions? Because I mean, that's I think one thing that we've all as Mörk Borg fans and players have been like, well, what's like if we're running a campaign here? What are the options? Can you tell us a little bit about the factions that exist in this world?
Yeah, so like they're kind of obviously like Mörk Borg, the world's fucked, but the Sea of Ash, it's like it's already been fucked as well. So like there's kind of they're all responding in different ways to the fact that shit's cooked. So like one of them is like we can just escape, but they're kind of very much like also the Pneumatic Order, and they're kind of based on some like Gnostic tradition stuff, and it's kind of about like transcending reality. But the reality is they're all just kind of snooty assholes. There's some fun stuff with like there's some necromancers who are also pyromancers, and trying to sort of combine the two, and that's like a fun one because like a lot of like symbology, fire kind of represents like a lot of like life and kind of like creativity and stuff, and obviously necromancy's a lot of the opposite of that, so like combining the two was pretty fun, like thematically.
I actually had a question about this, but I think I've realized it now that I'm reading it. You referenced that they had nods that come with like the Necromancer of the Tower, one appearing plus 2d12 nods, NODH. Is that a core Mörk Borg monster?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
when I read it, I was like, wait, what is that? But I forgot, like, I don't know the monsters by their Swedish or made up names or whatever. So that took me a minute.
Swedish made up, whatever. Same thing.
I didn't know.
It's a made up language. So.
They are
made up names. So
The navigating though is cool as well because you have rules not only for upgrading these boats, but like how they move around on the hex map. Like the GMs don't have to like come up with that on their own. So can you maybe explain a little bit of the mechanics of that?
Yeah, so it's just like for me, like getting lost is fun. When shit can go wrong and it's kind of a little bit out of the player's control, that can be fun in the right sort of game with the right sort of players. So like it's kind of about some of that, and also like, well, we want to go here, but the wind is against us. Our boat is wind powered, so do we just wait? Do we sell our boats and switch out to something that's maybe a bit slower but more dependable? And it's kind of by creating these like multiple pressures in multiple directions, it's like, okay, cool, like there's more to consider, and it means there's no like right answers. It means that like you have to work out what you think is important. The game system isn't telling you what's important and kind of circling it. It's just like, here's the terrain and you need to map your own chart across it, both like literally on the map, but also in terms of the decision space as a map. Yeah, you have to like find your own way through. There's no optimal route, which is like important to me.
You have like maybe 20 hexes that are keyed that have specific things in them, and then some of those are, even once you get there, you still kind of generate it yourself, right? Like the fortresses.
Yeah, the fortresses are fun. So that's where the raiders live, and like I'm always in two minds about stuff like that, whether you should leave it generated or like specific, because if it's specific, then I can just focus on making it really good. But I wanted to, there's like you're saying something different when it's randomized. It's saying like it could change visit to visit sort of thing. You're kind of really highlighting the fact that these guys are like super anarchic. There's no set way of doing things for them. They're kind of all doing their own thing, and it's very much malleable. There's no fixed reality there. So like having the Ashmouth Raiders, their fortresses being randomized is deliberate against almost everything else, which is fixed and specific.
Yeah. Well, it's also cool because these fortresses have a little like almost Mothership style point crawl map.
Yes, where they all hook up. Yeah.
So it's like all of them are, all of them have a docks, a market, a shipwright, and the leadership cabal. But then there are 3 features, and then there's a D20 table where you roll on what the feature is, and that could be like so many dogs is the feature.
Just a bunch of dogs in there.
Yeah, just having a good time.
Or goat farm fed on plentiful corpses. The goats have sharp teeth, that kind of thing. So you're like, it gives a little of that like discoverability for the whole group, including the GM. You know, emergent gameplay, as we keep saying.
I actually didn't think that you could re-roll the fortresses every time you could go there. That's fun because it's like implies switched leadership, and you know it's turbulent within the fortresses.
You go back and it's a different place.
Yeah, it's a kind of
goats have eaten everybody. There's just dogs everywhere.
Fine.
I want to pivot a bit about the art. So, Johan, like, did you finish this recently? Like, is this like in your output of work?
I don't know exactly when it was. It was a long process. Some of the pieces in here started like 4 years ago. And then some were more recent than that. So, but I tried to have a consistent style as well. And I wanted this to really stand out from the rest of the Mörk Borg stuff that I've been doing, especially with the color, because this is all black and white, all grayscale.
Well, that was my big question is like this compared to Cyborg, it's black and white.
It's the exact opposite. So, because I felt like, so when we did Mörk Borg, we wanted to break the rules. We wanted to, push limits, our own mostly, but also like we wanted to not be confined in a cage or like a box. But then in doing so, we sort of made our own box in a way. We made our own style. And there's a way that Mörk Borg looks, and I wanted to, with this one, break free from that, and as well, like, do something that doesn't look like Mörk Borg, but does. I don't know why I say Mörk Borg. I should say Mörk Borg, but So this is the opposite of what the core book is. There's no color. There's still my style, obviously, but it's not, the layout isn't as much all over the place, because it's focused on usability as well, but...
In my notes here, I would say I would describe it if you made a whole book that was like the style of Rotblack Sludge.
Kind of, yeah.
In that it's like, it's black and white. The art is like, it's not like so in your face that you can't read the text, but there's enough to give you that very like abstract idea of a monster rather than like, oil painting like you would see in a modern, 5e book or something.
And I feel that like it's important that adventures, and especially a big one like this, are easy to read and use. Like there's a reason why the core book, the setting text looks the way it does, because, the world is ending, reality is breaking apart, and so the layout is crazy, and you don't have to use it and reference it at the table, but this one you need to reference at the table, so it needs to be a bit more more normal in how it looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially I think the color thing is a big one, because obviously the setting is all about ash. So there's grayscale. There's actually there's no black or white throughout the whole book. There's no 100% black and no 0% black. It's all shades of gray.
Not to get too nerdy, but is it all printed with K, if you will?
Yeah,
is it all
yeah.
black?
It's K. It's 1 to 99K.
Okay,
book.
cool.
I made very sure that it's like this super nerdy thing that no one will care about but me.
No, I think like, in this community, some people will care.
Yeah, no, and that was like, weirdly enough, that was the most important thing for me. Like, that don't do 100% black anywhere. Don't do
1 to 99. Okay, so
1 to 99. Yeah, so this is like 99 shades of gray. The book, the game.
So like basically, to people who don't know what we're talking about, if you took like a magnifying glass and looked at the ink on this, like you would never see it fully splatted out. It would be like, dot matrixed, if you will, really zoomed in.
And then we have the whole like open spine that's painted black, and you have I'm not sure if you can see it here, but you have the text on like the wrong end.
Oh,
of the
nice.
wrong spine.
Yeah, it's like it's painted on. Is that why you had to use a different printer than like Standard or Lithonia?
Yeah. We got help from Andre Nohr of Games Omniverse, who helped us fix with the printing, because he's got a lot of contacts with Portuguese printers who done Frontier Scum, which is similar to printwise.
I just got my Frontier Scum yesterday, and it's got the same kind of red blood vibe.
The red edition, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I think they
handmade
made those. They splattered like on each copy physically.
Wow.
Like,
so, but the name on they printed it though, right? Those aren't hand done, right? For yours?
No, I think the splatter is sort of manually done somehow. I might be lying here. Like, yeah, I believe so. Not sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the release. So I'm very curious why you guys decided not to kickstart it. I know it's going to be Exalted Funeral release on 7/7, which is the perfect day to release anything. Mörk Borg. What do people have to look forward to? What's going to be in, what all SKUs can they get? Can they pre-order? Blah, blah, blah.
I think there's a pre-order. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's just a pre-order. No Kickstarter, because I think we just decided like, fuck it, like, yeah, we don't need to, like, if we're splitting it, because like I do the writing, Johan's doing art and layout, EF's publishing, like there's no need to raise funds to pay anyone, so like, fuck it, no Kickstarter, we'll just put it out there and see what people think, which has been like, I think for me anyway, very refreshing to not have to be like, oh, I've got to be ready to like tweet and retweet.
I have a Kickstarter in September, and I just always dread the amount of PR. It's just takes really soul sucking sometimes.
Yeah, it's a thing you have to do. Like, it's just something you, as a designer and publisher, I guess you need to do that. But it's not why you did this thing in the first place.
That's very true.
No, we figured like, why not just release it like this?
Sure. Is it just the book? One option? There's no like printed maps or limited editions?
There's a little kit actually. So it comes wrapped with a ton of stuff. Like, there's the book, and then there's an envelope, custom printed envelope with, I think it's three poster maps. One for the players, one for the GM, and one like encounter map that's just the hex map for the shits, the ship shits that you have.
Yeah.
That comes on a ship shit sheet. I had to ask Luke if I was allowed to call it ship shit sheet. You were like, what are you allowed?
Absolutely. Let's fucking go.
Too stupid to not.
So there's like SSHIPS or CHIT.
Yeah, so there are shits. Shit with ships on, and they come on a sheet.
Oh, okay, cool. Are they like cardboard punch out?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, like old school wargaming and shit.
Old school
which was like really fun.
Love that.
And they came out really well as well. Like,
good.
I think they look fucking awesome.
Also, it's a bit of a challenge to do those small illustrations, because they're like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter.
Oh wow,
So very tiny. Plus, you have to have the name there as well, and some of the names on the boats, it's not just boat. Like, the longest fucking names. Of course.
Mechanical inquisitive fish or whatever.
That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah, but that's the best one, because it's submerged, so you don't see it. So there's actually no illustration there. It's just a black box.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about your influences on this. And we talked a little bit about Dune, obviously, but at the beginning of the book, you guys have an Appendix R, which I'm assuming was a throwback to Gaia's Appendix N. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it's Appendix Records, right? But yeah, based on Appendix N, right? That's
okay.
The classic.
The R was lost on me, and I wanted to dig in there. I didn't know any of these. Not one of them did I recognize.
Damn, really?
Honestly, I was so excited about it because whenever you find a list like that, and I love both your guys' work. I obviously love this product, so I'm like, wait, what? So rather than looking any of them up, I thought that maybe we could do like a kind of rapid fire deep dive, if you will, and maybe you could tell me just an elevator pitch of what it is and why it's an influence. Is that what
exposed as poses, Johan?
This is your list, by the way. I know.
Name 3 of their records, sort of thing.
Okay, are you down?
Yeah.
Are you down? Are you ready? Okay. So The Witches with a Y.
I think the big album for me with that one is, I think it's Annabelle Dream Reader. So they're like a really noisy, I think they're like British, but it's kind of really noisy psych. They do lots of like fun dynamic stuff, like where it will be like, just one kind of instrument like rising up at the peak, everything else is going quiet, then it fucking all comes down at the same time. But kind of like a heavy psych, but a lot of noise influence in there, which is cool. So yeah, which is super fun. Again, I think they're British. Also Thunder Lizards Reprieve, which is why there's Thunder Lizards in this book.
Oh, really? Cool.
Nice. So they are all bands.
They're all bands. Oh yeah, Appendix Records.
I just assumed that, but and you never know. So okay, next one is I think it's Bossa de Nag.
I've always said Bostonage, but I'm not sure.
Bostonage it's BOSSE. We'll put these all in the notes. BOSSE-DE-NAGE.
Yeah, so they're named after, I think it's a monkey in like a French philosophical novel, and they're like a really fucking interesting black metal band. That the songwriter is also like an author, so they have these like super intense lyrics, and they do some cool like leitmotif stuff with like, I think it's leitmotif, whatever. Anyway, with like the names where like there's like a recurring character, despite the albums not being concept albums, there's like recurring characters in the names, which are interesting. And yeah, they do a lot because they're part of the Flenser, which is like a really cool record label that does like weirdo black metal for a lot of it. So it's less of your kind of like Scandi shrieking and lots of high pitched tweedling guitars. They kind of have a bit more of a big sound approach rather than like, what do they call it, like necro production, where it sounds like it's recorded in a toilet.
Okay, The Body.
The
so
Body
good.
is sick.
So good.
Yeah.
That's in one of the reference lists in Mörk Borg, the core book as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys got to make
we're all big The Body fans.
Yeah, you got to make a playlist for this one.
We should.
Do. So the main thing about The Body is they kind of gatekeep themselves because the vocalist sounds like a bird. And if you get past the fact he sounds like a squawking bird, you'll love it. Yeah. If that's a problem, then just check out There and Then. So they're really cool. They do some cool stuff where so it's like a big noisy kind of like, I guess like not quite funeral doom because it doesn't have that like operatic element. It's like sludgy, but not quite normal sludge. I don't know. They're very
It's
weird.
very atmospheric and very like there's so much agony in the sound of it as well. It's just speaking of shrieking, like that's what it is. It's just screaming about
It's fantastic. And they like remix. They do like a lot of like remixes as well. I think they have one album that's only made from like musical stems from previous albums.
Oh, cool.
They have one that was remixed, like produced by the guy who, the Haxon Cloak, who's like a dark ambient artist. That album fucking goes in. And they have the one where they use the chant of a Christian death cult based in America, and that forms like the vocal hook to the song, which is on the album where they have these like coconut heads and they're all holding guns. It's like, very intense, very atmospheric as well. It's one whole cohesive aesthetic project, it's not just divorced parts kind of pointing in the same direction.
Wolves in the Throne Room.
So they're like the classic hipster black metal band, right? They like, everyone used to hate them because they didn't turn up in corpse paint, so they were posers. But they're really cool. They're like, so they're based in the States. They're part of like the USBM, like United States Black Metal movement. There's like a lot of like folk influence in there. Like it's not just like the pure kind of like Satan punk of like super early black metal, and they kind of do a lot of the atmospheric stuff. They do a lot of the taking breaks and kind of padding, like the album's kind of a whole thing. Like it's kind of made to be listened to all the way through. I always find with a Wolves track, also Wolves album. Yeah, they're like, if someone's like, Luke, how do I get into like modern black metal? I'd be like, start with Wolves in the Throne Room. They're like super, I don't want to say accessible because that's like always given in a bad way, but like it's not hard to understand why they're good. Whereas like something like The Body, you either love it or you're gonna hate it. Like I wouldn't try and pitch somebody on them first, sort of thing.
Yellow Eyes?
So I don't know much about Yellow Eyes. They're just one of those bands that's in your music library. You don't know where from, but again, just it's really sick, quite nasty sounding black metal. Because that was like a big aesthetic through line for me. Was like a lot of like. It's interesting because Johan, correct me if I'm wrong here. A lot of people call Mörk Borg like a black metal inspired game, and I've always got more of a like sludge and kind of doom vibe from Mörk Borg.
I think we call it a doom metal album of a game, but we are. I mean, I think it's. I'm more of a sludgy doom stoner metal guy, and Pelle is way more like old black metal, Nordic black metal, that sort of thing. Because he's older than me. So I think that's why. Maybe because I've been like when I've done a lot of things, it's more inspired by the sludgy part.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, this was like this project for me because I was like, especially at this point when I was writing it, really into black metal at the time. So yeah, Yellow Eyes. I don't know much about them. They're just one of those bands that appear. Again, they are more on the kind of aggressive, hit you in the face side of things. But yeah, they're cool. I really like the Yellow Eyes.
Sigh, S-I-G-H.
So Sigh, like, I think they're the first Japanese black metal band, one of the first ones that got like exported from the country. And they're like early stuff. It's very like they've got a really idiosyncratic take on it. And some really sick album covers of like a fucking demon that's been like I think hand painted by like a band member or something. Yeah, no, Sigh, like their early stuff as well as the later stuff, just very idiosyncratic, doing their own thing. Black metal from Japan, which is like just cool to see. It's very international black metal, like now especially, which is cool.
I love how this turned into a music pod.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great. It's great.
I wish I had more to interject, but like these bands are also new to me, so I love that.
Same here. I can't add anything because this is all Luke's list.
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry,
this is Luke's.
I mean, I feel like metal is a lot like RPGs. You know, there's the big ones. You know, the Metallicas, the 5Es, if you will, and then you can get way down into like super, you know, Torchbearer or whatever. Meshuggah is where I would go. How about Cobalt?
So like I think the first vocalist turned out to be a piece of shit, which is unfortunate, but you know these things happen. So they're like interesting. Like they have like a lot of black metal sound, but like the attitude feels a lot more like kind of noise rock. Like it's very based in like lived experience as compared to like because some like black metal stuff is and others black metal stuff is like, oh, there's a vampire in the tower and he's killing the wizard, and they're like they don't touch any of that. It's like they're really into like kind of like a lot of American literary traditions. So like in the vinyl of Gin, it's like it's got I think Hemingway on the front and it's got like Hunter S. Thompson in the middle like of the gatefold. So that's like very unpleasant, very grounded music. Again, it's got some good dynamics where they'll switch it up and go like acoustic a bit. So then when it comes in hard again, it really hits. And both of the latter two albums like have fantastic opening tracks. Like Hunt the Buffalo, which is from I think their more recent one. That's a fucking killer track. Like it just gets you hype. It's dangerous to listen to in the car though, because you always want to break the speed limit. Listen to that.
All right, how about Wayfarer?
So Wayfarer, the shirt I'm wearing today, they're like cowboy inspired American black metal, which is really fun. So they do like really like lyrically they're super interesting because like despite them all like loving Western movies and like super inspired like Sergio Leone's like films and what's his name? Did the music for Good Bad and the Ugly. Shit. Ennio Morricone?
I'll Google it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ennio.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Ennio Morricone. I was like, fuck, I forgot his name. I like really inspired by the soundscapes, like the spaghetti westerns and like the history, but they're also like obviously very critical of the fact that like, oh, it's all the same as a vampire and that's terrible. But also making some really fucking good tunes. Again, like a really nice kind of aesthetic thing as well. Like the World's Blood album, the vinyl comes, like the cover is like a tinted like prototype of photographing. I can't remember the name of the specific technology taken by like a trailblazer basically, and it looks fucking awesome. And yeah, like the tracks are great. Like there's again cool dynamics. Like they kind of almost have like a campfire song at one point that then kicks off with like the big drums and all the distorted car and shrieking comes back in. And
sounds like sounds perfect for Frontier Scum.
Yeah, sounds like Frontier Scum.
I think those two tastes that go well together.
Yeah, sure. Okay, how about Altar of Plagues?
So they're an Irish black metal band. They have, I think, White Tombs, like the one that a lot of people talk about. They're just unique. I don't know what it is. There's something about their tone. There's something about the kind of just the ambience of the tracks, maybe the way it's put together. They are, despite hewing closer to the formula than some of the other bands on here, they still have like a really unique feel, which is like very cool. And again, it's that kind of like the global international aspect of black metal being shown off, which is cool.
And then finally, Wreck in reference?
So they're like the weirdest band on the list. So they do black metal, but they don't have any guitars. They have a synthesizer instead, and like most of the vocals are like sung rather than shrieked, although sometimes they are shrieked. So it's like black metal attitude, black metal kind of sounds produced with like synths and like I think even like a drum machine and just like vocals. And again, like very, very interesting lyrically. I think they're on the Flenser as well, the same as Boston Age. So like again, like super weird. Like I think they at one point they could describe themselves like mutant black metal. Like they don't want to do what other people have done with it. They're going to like, how can we make black metal by not making black metal, which is a fun way to do it.
Okay, so find what's black metal but not sound like it.
Yes,
like the essence of it. Okay, that's cool.
Do you dabble with dungeon synth at all?
Yeah, dungeon synth's weird because it's so on the verge of being the lamest shit you've ever heard. But often,
I can't agree more.
So often they manage to stick the landing, which is really impressive.
Yeah, and sometimes it's really hard, like it really hits. But I agree. Yeah. Sometimes I bought some dungeon synth albums. I'm not going to name them, but like it turns out to be just medieval music, pretty much. It's just like I put it on. It's just like this generic like in music, you know. And I'm like, what's this? This is not what I wanted. Like I want the gnarly stuff. Like exactly. Where's the dungeon? This is just like I don't know, medieval synth. I like some. There was a band. I think they disappeared from Bandcamp. I can't find them anymore. I think it was called Basiliscus or something. Maybe they're bad people, horrible people. I'm promoting them now. I don't know. But they had this really nice lo-fi noisy sound that I liked. It almost like really hurt your ears listening to it, but I really appreciated that. And that kind of music, like when Dungeon Synth is done that way, when it's lo-fi and it's like in the recorded in the toilet, as you said, like that's the best. I think people in our age bracket, which is kind of a large bracket, if you will, can't help but enjoy the like nostalgia of like, oh my god, I'm in my basement and it's like the late 80s and I'm playing some weird dungeon game and the music is terrible. But when you hear the new stuff, it like is paying homage to that, you know. No, but the music was good, but the technology was terrible.
Well, the writing is good. Yeah. But
and,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, it's like all like Shadowgate for the NES, and it's so good.
Yeah, I just got this in my shipment. This is the Mörk Borg.
Oh the old one.
Nohr tape where they just re-released. That's cool. Okay, this is probably going to be varied for both of you, but do you have any like RPGs that influence this project that we might not be able to tap into? I know some people aren't really like that. I'm very RPG inspired. Are there that you would like to share, or you keep this secret? You know,
I actually try to avoid getting inspired by RPGs.
I know a lot of people are like that.
As much as I can. Yeah,
a lot of people are like that.
Visually, I will like when I start a new project, I will have a pile of books, and there will be a lot of RPGs in it because I want to see how they solve problems. But for like the vibes and the look, I feel like I look elsewhere primarily. But I don't know, really.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat where like, apart from like really old shit, which a lot of the stuff I don't think I was into as much when I was first doing this one, I can't think of anything that was like a touchstone for me. Like, oh, how did they solve this? How did they solve that? Because for me, I'm very like, sure, I can read about somebody solving a problem and maybe learn something, but I'd much rather get in there and make the mistake myself. For me, like every work should be like solve the problems of the previous work, and that's kind of like an ongoing process of getting good. If I skip steps by taking from other people's like RPG work, then I'm like, I need to do the work from A to B. I can't just jump to B with because then I didn't. I don't know. For me, it's very weird. It's
no, I understand. I definitely understand.
I'm not as extreme, but I understand what you mean. Like I just want to solve the problems, and if I get inspired by someone else, that's fine. I just don't want to do the same thing because I think if you look too much into all role-playing games for inspiration, you just do the same thing all over and over and over again. But I think a healthy mix of different influences is probably the best.
Well, in my opinion. I also feel like you guys are, you're kind of like pushing the edge of this OSR thing, if you will. Like, I think maybe if you're a younger creator, you're like, oh, I don't know how to do this at all. But once you had a couple things published, then it's time to be like, all right, well, let's push the envelope in our own direction, which I kind of think maybe this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You kind of have to do the standard stuff for your own sake first. In a
Yeah,
way.
just if
you learn to play the standards, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. I had this. There's this famous. You guys listen to Wayne Krantz at all? He's a jazz guitar player, like kind of a modern jazz guitar guy, electric guitar.
No, sorry.
He has this really cool video from the 90s when they were playing a show in Europe where he's talking about, like I had all these influences, like these bebop influence and stuff, and I actually had to like get rid of all that music. He like got rid of his entire record collection and stopped listening to all the jazz that other people were listening to, so he could like find his own thing. And I respect that so much, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I think Lustmord's the same, where he's like, people are like, what do you listen to? He's like, I mostly like dub. And people are like, you don't really like dark ambient. He's like, no. Why don't I make it? Why don't I listen to someone else do it? It's going to be worse than mine.
It's a fair point. Before we move to my final segment, I have a few side topics here. And can you talk a little bit about Mörk Borg? Did you check out it?
No, I'm not involved in that. I love it as a bit. There's a lot of memes and in-jokes in the Mörk Borg space.
I felt personally attacked by the Mörk Borg.
As you should be. Yeah, you. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no, I should be. That's very guilty of just putting a word in front of the word. But what do you think about the concept, though? People just making Mörk Borg hacks from all these different genres.
Do you mean specifically the jam or the?
I mean both. I mean both the concept in general and the. I don't care about the jam. Let's talk about the concept in general.
I feel like I would prefer. I mean, Pirate Borg. I'm not gonna like. I love Pirate Borg and everything.
You can, dude. You don't have to sugarcoat it for me.
And we made Cyborg, so that was also 100% one of those. But I feel like I would rather see people do games inspired by our game and call it something else.
Yes,
I feel like it will be evident that it's attached or adjacent to it anyway. You don't have to sort of do the quick thing to just call it.
I mean, if I could just
skeleton
speak to
Borg
the issue.
or whatever. I'm not sure if there is a skeleton Borg. Sorry, but,
maybe. On my end, I just want to say to the people listening, like, I had not made anything other than a few 5e things. I thought it was going to be a stupid little zine. Like, I thought about changing the name after the Kickstarter, like, but also people know what it is, right? So
I'm just going to say, I like that people do it. I'll just get more excited by things that differ from the name and the things that we do. That inspires me more.
As someone who has made a Mörk Borg game, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Did you check out Black Powder and Brimstone? I think you guys did the stream, right?
I've seen it. I haven't seen it that much. I flipped through it. I think it looked cool. I'm not really involved in it in any way. That's
sure.
I tried to stay on top of all the third-party stuff at one point, and like I backed all the Kickstarters and I bought all of it, but I can't do that anymore. It's just too much.
There's too many. Yeah, I just thought that one was interesting because that one's a Free League one.
Yeah. No, they do that from time to time when they pick up things that they think is interesting and they feel they have potential and fits in their profile or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. It's like sort of Darkest Dungeon inspired visually.
Very Darkest Dungeon. Yeah.
Hold fast, wretched sailor. We brace for the broadside barrage.
First system you ever played?
That probably would have been AD&D 1E with my dad.
First one for me was the old Mutant game, Swedish. One of the three big Swedish games. We have Drakar Demoner, now Dragonbane, Mutant, and Kult. Pretty much. And Mutant was my first game. I didn't understand anything, but I loved it, so kept doing it.
Most recent system you've played?
What day is it? It's a Saturday, so that would have been White Hat. No, that didn't run this week. Classic Traveller. Sorry, Sean McCoy.
I love that you're playing Traveller. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? So I was invited by friends of ours to join in their 5e game, and I did. And I had
this is amazing.
And I had a really good time. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to come clear.
Look, I love 5e. Yeah. I just think it's, as this OSR thing keeps growing, it's just funny.
Yeah, no. I just, to my defense and to our defense, we didn't roll a single die. We didn't use a single rule. So I don't know if that counts. No, we didn't play that. We just
didn't play the system.
No, we didn't. I had a character sheet, but I never, we didn't look at it. It was fun. We were just walking around talking to NPCs, and shenanigans happened. So not a single die was rolled.
RPG that you haven't played yet that you would like to try?
Empire of the Petal Throne. The author was a piece of shit, as it turned out. But it's crazy. I want to run it. I want to learn that insane amount of lore. It seems bonkers.
I thought you said something else. But then you said the creator was a piece of shit, and then I thought, no, this wasn't it. Because I was talking about Cloud Empress, and that's not the same thing.
No. We like what?
Yeah, of course. And I bought these the other day, and I want to play this so much. Cloud Empress looks really cool. No, and it seems like I've just flipped through it now, and it feels like the world is both very, it seems like a real place that is also very fantastical in a way. So it really makes me want to dig in.
Recent Kickstarter that you are excited to receive that you've backed.
What's the question? That I have received or that I want to?
A Kickstarter that you're excited to receive that hasn't shipped yet.
Okay, then I can't say Mothership then because I got that. And I was excited for it though. That and also Tomb of a Thousand Doors, the Mouse Ritter Mega Dungeon thing. I really want to have.
Favorite edition of D&D?
OD&D, the only true edition, as we all know. Everything else is fake and lame.
The favorite edition? I don't know. I don't really have one. I think BX is the simple answer. It's the one I know.
If you are both Mörk Borg PCs, what class would you be?
I was the dude with the teeth, Fang Deserter. As soon as I was like, oh yeah, let's fucking go. He's got teeth.
Yeah, I'll do the esoteric hermit guy stays inside in his cave and hates the world. I'm just annoyed that the end is coming because it's just so messy.
Same question for Mothership.
Teamster, Union Pride. Let's go.
I remember what the classes were in there. It's like soldier.
Marine scientist, android, teamster.
Yeah, probably teamster as well.
I was for sure you would both say scientist, but that teamster makes sense.
I don't want to think about things. I do that already. I hate it.
Branching off that, would you rather live in the world of Mörk Borg or the world of Mothership?
Oh, they're both their own kind of hell, aren't they? Yeah. At least in Mothership, I can get on my spaceship and jet off.
You could find there's a chance of finding a good planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Like see you, otherwise, yeah.
I agree. I feel like in Mothership, I mean, it's bound to end up horribly, but it's going to be nicer on the way there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, add an entry to the what's in the cargo hold of the Ship of the Dead D100 table.
Size 7 boots.
Size 7 boots?
Size 7 boots, owner unknown. They've just always been there.
What's in the cargo hold? 2d6 goblins. Let's go.
Oh, man. Favorite die size?
Oh, D6. It's what they have in space. Yeah.
D12. Always. Best one. Yeah, it's twice as good as D6. Come on.
They can do everything a D6 can and more. That's true.
I just love the shape of it. It's just so nice.
Me too. Favorite Tephrotic Nightmares monster?
I really like the tentacled mole whale. Because for that one, rather than like writing a description, I just photoshopped a boat in front of a giant tent-like mole coming out of the ground and just said to Johan, like this, but fucked up. Which was very fun to just be like, fuck it, I'm not writing it. This doesn't need words. This just needs a cool picture. Yeah, probably that guy.
I think mine is like 1,000 crows. It's such a fun description. Because like, if a group of crows is a murder, this is a statistic. Which I think is brilliant.
I forgot about like 1,000 crows.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's speaking of like this is a humor game. It's so obvious. Like,
it is. Yeah. All right, this one's controversial. Duck people as playable races in RPGs. Yes, please, or no thanks.
Yeah, based. Let's go. It's good.
No, we have history with that. I have to say no. I will accept it. No, yeah, I will. Let's see how I say this. I will accept it, but I will not like it. Okay, I can't tolerate it, but I will let it happen. If that makes sense. Yeah,
it makes sense to me. Yeah. What music have you been listening to recently? Let's say like album that's getting the plays recently.
I've been Cannibal Ox's The Iron Vein, which is like an old like New York hip hop album that's fucking great. I've been revisiting that lately because it is a banger.
Also listen to a lot of hip hop actually, but Swedish hip hop. So a guy called Organismen formerly from a band called Mobbade barn med automatvapen, which means bullied children with automatic rifles. And it's one of the real true Swedish lyricists that it's just all about the lyrics. And it's so good.
Well, I was gonna say like I'm gonna have to check that out, but I feel like if the best part is the lyrics, I'm gonna be lost on me.
The beats are great. I mean, his flow isn't his primary thing; it's the lyrics and the multi-syllable rhymes and all that stuff. And I think you get lost if you don't speak Swedish.
Favorite libation or beverage during your RPG sessions?
Oh, I'm orange water. Yeah, gotta keep my throat clear, innit?
Beer for me.
Video or computer game you've logged the most hours playing?
Oh no, I know the answers. I answered that already last time.
You did, yeah.
And I feel ashamed, but it's still the same. Probably still the same answer.
Well, let's make people go look it up so that you don't have to be ashamed twice.
Most played is Arma 3, which is a military simulator kind of sandboxy thing. Because me and my friends used to make our own maps, and so we spent we had like a crew of like 20 of us or something.
Wow,
doing really bad military simulation stuff. But we were like, because we were really bad at it, we had like the law that we the budget private military company, which is why we sucked and would always get blown up and fail the mission every time. So yeah, Arma 3 apparently with like 400 odd hours.
Since you have your list pulled up, can you tell us your top 3?
My next one is Dark Souls, the OG, which says 370 hours, but I pirated it and played about 100 hours before then, so that would probably actually be first place. Yeah.
I've actually just started. I'm terrible at that game, and I actually have just started my first real attempt, and man, it is frustrating. But
it's it took me like 12 tries to get into Dark Souls, and now that when I bust through the wall, I was like, oh, this is the game I'll play for the rest of my life.
I think I finally started to get it. Honestly, Johan, you guys talking about Elden Ring made me be like, okay, I gotta get in and figure out this set of games are gonna change my life. They just, I'm stuck at that kind of game, so I really
Elden Ring was the one that got me into it. I tried Dark Souls and Bloodborne, it didn't click for me, but then Elden Ring completely, devoured me. And then I went back to Dark Souls and, the other games. Not as fun. Elden Ring still better, in my opinion, but...
Yeah, that's why I picked Dark Souls Remastered, because I was like, I'm not going to be able to start at the end and want to go back. I might as well start at the beginning,
My third is Fallout New Vegas. Probably surprising no one.
Oh, nice.
That game fucking rocks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Fallout 1, but it's...
Yeah, I do love the old Fallouts as well.
Did you watch the show?
I haven't. I can't watch TV.
I heard the show was great, yeah. Okay, let's wrap up with how can people find you guys on the interwebs?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter for my sins, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I had a question about that. I was going to put this in the barrage, but how long until you're unbanned from the Mothership Twitter?
Never, honestly. That would be like, well, you can we'll have an annual review to see if you're allowed to communicate.
Was this all because of the astronaut thing, or how did that come about?
Yeah, this is because of Dave. This is
because you named the astronaut on the cover Dave.
I didn't name the astronaut Dave. The astronaut's name is Dave. It's nothing to do with me. I'm just telling people the truth.
Is that an official Tuesday Night Games statement?
But does Sean not like that, or what's the story?
No, I want to hear an answer to this question. Is that an official? Because you work there, like you represent.
Off the record, he's Dave, but I can't say anything contractually. No, it's just funny. It's because I regularly get kicked from the Mothership Discord server for trying to talk about Dave as well. Like they had their new werewolf game come out, and I was like, are any of the werewolves named Dave? Immediately.
There were some people that was actually worried on Twitter that you were banned. It was like,
some people like, this is very immature. What's going on? And I'm just like, I'm just having fun with my boss. Like, it's fine.
Okay, so they can find you on Twitter. What's your handle?
Luke Gearing. I think I'm Luke Gearing everywhere. Very boring. That's probably the best place. I tend not to lurk on public discords, only intermittently. Yeah, so Twitter if you really want to, or website, which is lukegearing.blot.im.
Same for me. Unfortunately, Twitter is probably the best place, and then I have an Instagram, art by Nohr, but Twitter is probably where you'll quickly find me.
What is it? Johan Nohr?
It's my name, yeah. I'm as boring as Luke is, so...
I've got one of those too, it's just not for RPGs.
You've been listening to the Ship of the Dead podcast. Email your questions, comments, and buried treasure tips to shipofthedead@limithron.com. You can support the program, join our Discord server, get early access to new episodes, and instantly download hundreds of battle maps, assets, and adventures at limithron.com/Patreon. Tiers start as low as $2 a release, and you only get charged when I make something new.
Pirate Borg, my rules-light, rum-infested hack of Mörk Borg, is available now at pirateborg.com and retail stores everywhere.
Ship of the Dead is produced by Limithron LLC. Our audio editor is Matt Kepler, and our music is by Alexander Miller.
For more, head to limithron.com.